should be able to have a drop-down, and then it should have a button there for a chat or Q&A. If you do have any questions, I will try to answer them throughout the presentation. If I feel that the answer is coming up in a slide or the question is not quite relevant as to what we were talking about right now, I will go ahead and answer it at the end of the session. So all questions will be answered, though, whether it be at the end of the session or through the presentation. We will definitely get your question answered. A copy of the session will be available in video, so we are recording right now. So if you don't feel comfortable with your voice on the video, please go ahead and just write in the chat box and let me know, and I can answer all questions that way. And you'll also be able to download the PDF slides, and both of those things will be available on jonassupport.com under the Resources and Training tab. So what do you expect from this webinar? Webinars are just to enhance your knowledge of Jonas, so they're not to be taken in place of formal training. We do expect that you have a base knowledge before you take this webinar. And it's going to be about 50 minutes of information, and we'll have 10 minutes at the end for question and answer. I do tend to find that this one runs a little bit shorter, so we will have more time if you feel like you have more questions that you might need to ask. So let's get started. Just a little bit about the tax reporting program. So this is used by clubs in tracking tax in sales and purchases to assist in the preparation for your remittances. Basically, it's a way to attach codes to all of your different sales and all of your different purchases that will tell Jonas at the end of your tax period what is due. So it will put together a nice report of all of your transactions that were taxable, and it will tell you exactly how much tax you need to prepare during tax time. So when you do have a tax rate that's changed, the tax reporting module actually has a little utility in there, and it lets you change the tax rate en masse. So what that means is if you have a tax rate, say that's going up, you do not have to go to every single instance where that tax rate is set up in Jonas and change it manually. There is a spot that will change them all for you. There's also a report that lists all of your tax setups within the system, so you know if there's a discrepancy exactly where it's coming from, because that report will tell you what transaction and what calculation was being done. So what do you need for tax reporting? You need, first of all, a tax reporting group. The tax reporting group is basically all taxes that are reported or remitted on the same form. You need a tax reporting date, so a cutoff date, whether it's month end, quarter end, year end, for your taxable sales and your tax. And then you have your tax reporting codes. So these are taxes that are grouped together on one remittance. For example, taxable sales, exempt sales, your credits, any liquor taxes. So anything that needs to be separated out on those remittance forms, those would have their own individual tax reporting code. And then you'll also want to do some setups for your tax exempt sales, so you can report on those as well. So taxes that only relate to exempt sales, you want them grouped together so that you can show the government exactly what was taxable and exactly what was not, and it's all on one nice clean report for you. So we'll go through all of these in more detail, but this is the structure of what you need to make the tax reporting module work for you in your club. So the first thing we're going to talk about is tax reporting groups, and this is the most simple setup. It's you just need a code and you need a description. So in our example here, we have our state tax group, and the code is state, the description is state tax group. Then you need your tax reporting dates. So you need to tell Jonas per tax group what date these taxes will need to get reported on. So for this example, our state tax needs to be reported on January 31st, 2015. And then you'll set up your tax reporting codes. So tax reporting codes are the individual taxes that make up one remittance form. So in this example, we're using GST. You could be using state sales tax. You could be using county tax. Anything that goes on the same form needs to have its own code. So every code is assigned to a group. And then you can also report sales as VAT as well, which is more of a UK thing, but if you do some of that at your club, this is where you would set that VAT checkbox up as well. There is a whole separate webinar on the VAT reporting, so if you are interested in that, please you go ahead and write in the chat box, and I can let you know where to find that webinar as well. What you'll need for codes is also a code for your federal tax, your state tax, your service charges, but also one that's a code for your exemptions. So if something is federal tax exempt, you would assign the exemption code to that sale or to that item when it's sold. You want to make sure that you have exemption codes set up under tax codes and that you're setting them up under the tax reporting exemption code options. You can see it looks like this. You're just telling Jonas exactly what the code is when something is exempt from sales tax. So once you have all of your tax codes set up, so you have one for your state tax, your county tax, you have your liquor tax code, everything set up, you'll want to go ahead and link it to all the different things that you can sell in Jonas. So there are a couple different spots. Then here you can see they're grouped by module. Under the club management module, the first stop will be the club profile. So this is under club management, club setup, basic club profile, under taxes. So this is where you would put all of your tax codes. So this is the default tax code when something is set up that is taxable. The second spot would be under your item groups. So item groups are the things that you sell from club management chip processing, and they're also the linkage between the point of sale sales categories and the club management module. So your item groups are under club management, club setup, item groups. So for each individual item group, they will have their own taxes set up as well as their own tax codes attached. The next stop would be your interest codes, and interest codes are the how your club would charge late fees or finance charges if you are taking advantage of this feature. That's under club management, club setup, interest codes, and this is where you would assign your taxes if there are any taxes to be charged on interest fees, or if interest is tax exempt, this is where you would assign your exemption code. The last spot in club management is your fee billing. So fee billings are your dues, basically. Under club management, club setup, fee billing schedule, each individual due setup or fee billing schedule has its own tax. So what you'll want to do is assign the tax rules and put your tax codes in there. Outside of the club management module, you can assign tax codes in point of sale as well, and this is all done through system parameters tax rules. So this is point of sale, system setup, system parameters, and then you'll go to tax rules, and that is where you set up the individual tax codes to tell Jonas exactly what to charge when you're selling items through the point of sale. You also have a spot within the banquets and catering module. So if you are using this module under the system profile, you can set it up to follow the point of sale tax rules, or you can assign your own tax rules in banquets. Either way, you do need to have tax codes linked there as well, especially if your club makes a lot of banquet sales. The last spot is the hotel management. So if your club uses hotel management, under the billing and receipt codes, if those are taxable, they do need to have tax codes attached. If they're not taxable, if they're exempt, you do need to put your exemption codes in there as well. So once you have your tax code set up for sales, you want to go ahead and attach your tax codes for your input tax. So this is tax that is paid by the club on AP invoices. So the first spot that you'll want to put that in is under administration in your company profile. And this is where you'll attach your default tax percentage as well as the code. The second spot will be the accounts payable module under setup edit suppliers. There's a default tax code to use, so if you have certain suppliers that are always one type of input tax, you can go ahead and attach that to their profile so you don't have to remember to do it every time that you're entering in an invoice. And you can also set it at invoice entry. So every time an invoice is entered, you can go ahead and put in a different input tax code. So these are just a couple of spots where the tax codes are linked. So this one is your club profile. So this is club management, club setup, basic club profile. You can see down the line here, we have our taxes, our tax rates, and then we also have our reporting codes. So that's where you would assign those to be used every time a sale is made for the club. This is our item groups. So this is club management, club setup, item groups. You can see that each individual item group, so for example, here we have restaurant food. We do have a tax, and then there is a reporting code attached to there as well. The next one we have is our POS tax code. So this is this point of sale system, system parameters, taxes. This is one of our tax codes. This is the one for sales tax, and you can see off to the right-hand side circled in red, we've attached a sales tax code so that it reports under sales tax. The next stop is record invoices / credit notes. So this is in the AP module. Once again, you can see over to the right where all the amounts are, any taxes that are to be held on this invoice. we've attached that code as well. So once you have all of your tax codes attached to your payables as well as your sales, at the end of the period, you'll want to run the company tax report. So this is a report that compiles all of your tax and your sales information to be used as backup when you do your tax remittance to the government. So it gives you an input and an output section, so what's coming into the club that's taxable and what the club should be paid out as taxable. It also gives you your transactions, so you can have those transactions as detailed, so one line per transaction, or you can summarize it by audit trail. So audit trail basically will give you the total that hit the GLs for that report for that day. So for example, if it's a point of sale end of day update, it will summarize it by that SJ number. So anything that hit your sales tax from that day will be grouped into one big amount. The reason you might want to do this is because it's a lot easier to reconcile. Those transactions did not hit the general ledger individually. They got grouped together. So that number will be in your GLs. You can compare it to your report. You also have the option to summarize by sales area. So that way you can kind of look and see this is the tax from our retail, this is our tax from our food and beverage, this is our tax from our administration office. So it kind of allows you to summarize it and compare it to your sales individually like that as well. This report will also give you subtotals of every tax code that you've set up, so you can see exactly how much you have in state tax, all of your exemptions, all of your liquor tax, your county tax, any code that you have set up that will be subtotaled on this report. And then it will also give you a summary of all the totals plus your total owing. So what you should be owing, what Jonas thinks you should be owing, and you can actually compare that to what's in the actual sales tax payable GL. And you can also compare it to what you think you should be owing based on an outside audit as well. So the tax report, you run by tax group. So the tax group will give you all transactions that need to go on one remittance. And you also need to give Jonas a tax date. So this will give you all transactions on that report up to and including this date. So for the end of a period, you'd probably want to use the 30th or the 31st of the month. It will close or it will move any transactions off of those reports. So what that means is if I put in a tax date of January 31st, and then I go ahead and run my tax report for February 28th, which is the last day of the next month, anything that was on my January 31st report will be closed off and I won't see it on my February report. If a transaction was added in January after my January 31st report was run, I will see it on my February report. So you want to make sure you do not run this tax report until after the month is completely closed and there will be no more transactions. As soon as your remittance is completed, go ahead and close that report, and what that means is those transactions are done now. You cannot report on them again for taxes. So the company tax report gives you the most detailed information. These are just the different ways that you can run it. So the detailed information gives you a listing of all the sales, plus their tax info, and you can run that by item group, which is your club management. You can run that by sales category, which is the point of sale, or you can run it by fee billing, which are your dues. You can summarize it by audit number, so it makes it very easy to reconcile against the GL inquiry because it'll give you that one total that hit your GLs. And you can also summarize it by area, so it lists one amount for sales and one amount for tax by sales area. You can also load, you can save, or you can save as different options. So this way, if you have a preference for how you want to view the report, you can save that preference and then you won't have to put in your parameters each time. And then you can go ahead and load it for the next month. So this is what the tax reporting screen looks like. We have our tax group. We put in our date. We've summarized by audit number. And then I'll go ahead and hit print and view. And this is what my report will look like. So I've summarized here, and you can see that my South Carolina state tax is giving me all of my transactions, all of my sales, as well as any taxes and the total that was charged on those transactions. So this is more of a detailed report. It gives you every single transaction on its own line, which date and which audit number it's on. So you can see that all of the sales here are on audit number SJ0733. That means that if I had run it by summary, they would all be grouped into one big line because that's the amount that would have hit the GL. And you can see that here on this example, we have one line per SJ number, and then it gives you your total. And lastly, this is our summary by sales area. So you can see that on all my sales areas, my admin, my banquet, my golf, gives me all of my sales, all of my taxes, and then a total. So this could be used as backup for your remittance. Finally, at the bottom of the report, it does give you your totals. So it gives you all of your purchases, it gives you all of your tax, it gives you all of your totals. And then it allows you to go ahead and see exactly how much you owe. So in this case, we owe $27,981.09. So outside of just reporting on your taxes and closing periods, what you can do within the tax reporting feature is get reports on all of your tax setups within the system. So what this utility does is it lists all tax codes within your system, and it reports on all of them. So it gives you the percentage and also the tax code, so you can see exactly what is set up, what percentage it's set to charge, and what grouping it's supposed to be under. So if you are noticing discrepancies, this would be a really good spot to start because it will show you exactly how you're set up for taxes. So it gives you, there are a couple different ways to print this report. You choose your company, you choose your report type, so you have the option of all, which gives you all of your tax setups. You have the option of blank, which gives you the taxes but without the reporting codes, and then setup, which gives you your tax setup with the reporting codes. So this is what the report looks like. You can see exactly what program it's under. So these are our item groups. There's our sales areas. There's our actual item group code, and then exactly what is set up. So our gratuities, our FSTs, our local tax, our other tax, and what percentage it's charging. You also have the option to edit your tax reporting data. So if something was made in error or if there was something incorrect that was set up, you can actually edit where it should have been. So you can actually move a tax transaction to another tax code. So you can see over on the left-hand side, the edit tax reporting data forces you to choose the company, whether it's input or output, and then what tax reporting code you should be reporting under. You can also choose the date, and you can filter it by audit number, or you can search a reference as well if you know it. Then it gives you a pop-up of all of your tax reporting data, at what point you just double-click on the line, and it will take you to the screen here where you can change the tax reporting code. So if something is showing up on the wrong section of your report, you can actually go ahead and move it so that it still works as a good backup for your auditors. It gives you a report of what was changed, and it just lets you know that, so for example, in this one, our social area for dues, we've changed our service charge to sales tax exempt. So maybe they were getting charged a service charge by accident. Another feature within the tax reporting module is the company tax rate change utility. So this will change all taxes in one step. So it allows you to add a tax code to all the applicable fields. It allows you to change your tax program, and it allows you to, it actually saves you a lot of time to change all of your tax rates. So all batches and all modules should be updated prior to running this program. So what that means is if you have any outstanding invoice batches, if you have any outstanding banquets or events or hotel, if your night audit hasn't been run, you want to make sure that those are run before you run the tax rate change utility because it will cause an imbalance in your taxes. You can leave point of sale end of day updates as long as you don't modify them. So if you don't touch your chits, you just leave them there as closed and non-updated. You run the tax rate change utility. Then you can go ahead and update your point of sale, but don't try to modify any of those chits because they will cause an imbalance. So the tax rate change utility first asks you for your company, it asks you for the tax type, it asks you for the old rate. So if your tax rate is going from 7 to 7.5%, it will ask you for the old rate, and I would put 7.5% in the new percentage. And then you can go ahead and preview this report and hit update, and it will give you this report here telling you exactly what was changed and where it was changed and what reporting code it was under. If you do have a tax rate change, you can set that up in your point of sale ahead of time as well. So this is under your tax codes in the point of sale. So again, that's point of sale, system setup, system parameters, and then tax codes. All tax setups have an effective date, so you can actually set up an effective rate change by using the same tax code. So if your tax code is, for example, A, you would use A again, so you would set up a new tax code, select the A, and then put in the new effective date, so the one that's coming up, and just put in the new information there. This is an example of the setup for that. So you would go to your, so in this example, we're using tax code T. You would hit Save As. You would save it as tax code T, but then you get to give it a new effective date. So you can make changes and change the effective date for those taxes. So that is all the information I have for you today. I will open it up for questions now if anybody does have any questions for me. Just give it 1 second here to unmute the lines.
Line unmuted.
Perfect. So you should be unmuted now if you have any questions. Okay. Well, I will stay on the line just in case anybody is feeling